have to worry about.
I think so.
Okay, let me turn your volume up a teensy bit, but you sound pretty good.
Yeah, I got a good mic because I raised all my rental properties price.
Mm-hmm. So let's get back to, I guess, the main thing of. Also, hi. Nice to talk to you. So your big thing was you think that I was being ridiculous for being angry that they always increase your rent year to year for like around $100, give or take. So where am I wrong there?
Well, I think you're generalizing, number one. So it's perfectly reasonable for a rental property to, I mean, they're running a business, number one. So, I mean, if as long as we're not talking about project housing or low income housing, which there are certain regulations in place to prevent some types of price increases, but
Well, sure, then we're
a
not talking about
general,
those, right? Yeah.
okay, yeah, I mean, so, I mean, obviously those are the outliers. I mean, what you're saying was, I think, incorrect insofar as if a rental property increases their rent by I mean, if it's $100, let's assume, let's call it $1,000. It's 10%. That's kind of a lot, but that's, I mean, it's so area based. It's so region specific. But let's say it's $1,000 a month, and you've been
Mm-hmm.
renting there for 3 years. Raise it by $100 a month.
So
Yeah,
it's
that's a
now
10% increase.
13, right?
Well, $100 a month would be $1,100 a month if it was $1,000 a month. So that's a 10% increase, and
You said over 3
you might.
years.
Well, I said you've been there for 3 years, and
Yeah, and then
they've
every
now
year
raised your.
it's gone up $100. So we're at three
Well, no,
three
you're
years.
saying you're not. You're no, you're putting words in my mouth. I'm saying you've rented there, which the duration of time you've rented there doesn't really mean anything. Let's say you've rented
No,
there for
that's
10
specifically
years.
what. No, that's where you're wrong. I'm not putting words in your mouth. You're just not understanding what I was saying. Maybe what I was saying is basically every single rental that I've ever been, which has been at least like 12 at this point. It's gone up around like $100 a year, like $100 per month. Like if you live
$100
there
per month per
1
year.
year.
So you're going up $1,200 every year. So if you rented there for 3 years, your rent would go
No,
up
if my month,
$3,600.
if my rent was $1,000, then I lived there for a year. Next year, my rent will be $1,100 per month. And then the year after that, it'll be $1,200 per month.
This is at all of the 12 places you've rented from.
Well, not that number, but generally speaking, it'll go between around 50 to 150.
All right, so I've rented at let's see, at least 5 places over the course of my life. One, the longest duration was for 3 years. At no point did they increase my price. And if they did, um, I I would have, I mean, I can't understand why it would have been on the increase structure you're talking about. But if they did increase my price by a margin as small as 10% per month, I would inquire as to why. And I think in most cases, like we've
Exactly. I
excluded
would
the
inquire as to
outliers.
why.
We've excluded the outliers of low income or project housing.
Sure.
It's due to some need to improve facilities or properties, or
So
the
wait, so
properties
you
on
told
the
me
facilities
I
on the
didn't know
property.
anything I was talking about, but you don't even know why they would increase the rent?
In the hypothetical that we're talking about, it's hard for me to know all the details given that
Well,
it's a
as
hypothetical
you're the
example.
expert here, because you're saying I don't know anything. Do you know
So
anything then?
I'm supposed to know the details of
Yes,
the hypothetical.
absolutely. That's what we're talking about. That's what you were arguing for earlier. You said it was valid.
What?
You said it was totally valid and it makes sense.
What? The price increase?
Yes.
If it's for the purposes of improving I live in an apartment complex that has green space, a pool, shared common
And when
areas.
you moved in, it had all of that, and you were paying, again, just for easy
Yeah,
numbers, $1,000 a month.
and
Why all of a
they
sudden
want
are
to
you?
improve. If they want to improve the area in which I
But they
live, I
haven't.
can either leave. Okay, well, if they're raising prices, I don't know
Okay.
who you've rented from, but they're
Okay, wait, no, go with what
clearly
you're saying.
like
You saying what are
practicing.
your options? You can either leave.
No, I could leave, or I can agree to pay the price, and then I get to benefit from improved facilities and common areas.
What if they don't actually improve anything?
Well, then that would be a violation of a contract, and they would get sued, and they would lose their
No,
right to operate that business.
That's
No, after a reasonable duration,
that's adorable.
they would lose. It's adorable.
Do you
really?
think
Okay.
that if
It's
you're renting, you probably have a lot of like lawsuit money?
If I'm renting,
If you're paying $1,000 a month, again, just to keep it clean,
as a renter, yeah, okay.
you think that if you're gonna have a problem with paying $100?
All right. Clearly, you don't know how lawsuits work either, and it's not surprising you have very little information on real estate law.
All I've said about lawsuits is that they're expensive. Are you telling me that I'm incorrect with the fact that I'm saying lawsuits are expensive?
It depends on what type of lawsuit.
Well, you know exactly the lawsuit we're talking about. We're talking about suing a. What do you mean you don't necessarily know what? What are we talking about? What are we talking about?
What firm is carrying out the suit?
When you just brought up giving them.
Which we're suing? Is
no,
it a civil
you
offense?
just talked about. Hold on. You just said they would be sued. You just said if they did that the tenant would sue them, correct?
Well, I said they could sue. I didn't say they
yes. So we're talking about that lawsuit. So yes. So hold on. So yes, we're talking about that lawsuit. So do you think that a tenant doing the lawsuit that you're talking about,
regulations and statutes in place
to prevent
this type of
do you
fraud,
think the tenant?
It would not take. Excuse me. It would not take a lawsuit necessarily because there are regulations and statutes in place that prevent this type of real estate fraud. If you fail to if you take money on the basis of improving common areas at an apartment complex and you fail to do so in a reasonable time based on the terms of your contract, that is you violated the contract. That is real estate fraud in some capacity. The government would interfere in that situation. Local governments would interfere. So there are potential civil penalties that could.
So you're telling me that this never happens
on the behalf of the tenant? It absolutely happens when a rental system of some capacity, an apartment complex or the entity that owns it engages in fraud against its tenants or whomever benefits from its business, and they are penalized in some capacity. That absolutely happens.
Do you think that tenants benefit from their business?
Well, yeah, they're living there and benefit in the capacity that they are receiving the good or the service provided by the rental company.
Okay, but what if they have not improved anything?
Well, that's what we just enumerated.
Okay, but that's what would
be. If so, you're saying that the price was increased, you paid the price for any duration of time.
You lived there for 1 year,
5 years.
Nothing has changed. You are now paying $100 the next $100 more per month, so $1,200 total more. And they haven't done anything.
Over what duration have they not done anything? And
a
what
year.
was the specified reason for the price increase?
It's every year.
What was the reason for the price increase?
What do you mean? What's the reason?
Why did they raise your price?
Nebulously maintained property.
To maintain the property.
Yeah, they give you a very vague terms. Do you think that like the average tenant like gets like an itemized receipt for what they do?
Well,
I think that they should.
In a contract.
Wait, hold on. Would you agree that they should?
Sure. Get an itemized receipt for the actions of
for all of your money that you're like if they're gonna bump up your rent, should you be entitled? Do you think that they should be entitled to an itemized receipt?
I am almost certain you are entitled.
You think that you're entitled
to ask them for that receipt? It's part of your contractual agreement. I would imagine the contract you sign entitles you to know where the money you're spending goes. I have absolutely rented. I opened the conversation by saying I've rented multiple times.
So have you ever asked for an itemized receipt?
No, because I don't need to see the itemized receipt because I'm not a lunatic. Because I don't.
Wait, it's a lunatic to ask for an itemized receipt?
Well, what do you need the itemized receipt for?
To know what your money's being. If you're getting upcharged, you don't think it's reasonable to ask for an itemized receipt? You kind
I've
of agreed
never
to that
been
earlier.
upcharged. I've never been upcharged,
Okay,
but
well,
if I was
hypothetically, let's
upcharged, I would
say
inquire as to the reason why, and according to statutory law, they would have to provide me a reason why. In certain places, there are some circumstances where there are not laws in place to prevent price increases on rental properties. Excluding those situations, if they have to provide a reason as to why, and I'm almost certain they would, or else they would suffer business in terms of their business performance.
when you say
And if
statutory
they
law, what do
didn't,
you mean?
oh my God, lady, you don't know laws
I'm asking what
dictated
you
by
mean.
courts.
You've been very vague about a lot of things you're saying. Don't act
I
like I'm
have
being
I
crazy
have
here,
been
my guy.
severely specific.
Oh,
There are
okay.
statutes are laws determined by courts. Then there's policies. Those are laws determined by legislation.
Okay, so again, you're just you're just saying laws then.
Yeah, well, that you asked me what a
Yeah,
statute
which
was.
specific law is my question, my guy?
I don't have that
Well, can
depth
you
of
give me
knowledge
one
on this issue.
example? Like,
No, I can't. I can't give you specifics. I cannot cite specific statutes and
okay,
laws,
so
and
what you're just
they're
what
so
you just
region
said was that
based.
there are laws, so they can't do this, but yet they do it. So
Well, I know. I said there are circumstances where different laws exist in different regions, where different
yeah, and you
types
can't
of
name me a single
behavior.
one.
I don't. What do you want me to paint a
I,
picture for you? I mean,
yes,
I
that's
don't.
exactly what I want you to do. You're saying I don't know anything, but it seems like you don't know anything. I could just say the same thing. You realize I could have the same
I
argument
can't
back to you and
imagine
just say stuff?
who listening to this conversation would find you to be the more informed.
Well, clearly, if you're looking at the chat, you're definitely not the one that seemed is
I'm
being
not
seen as
looking at the chat,
informed.
nor do I care. Nor do I care.
Yeah, I can tell.
I think you're. I don't know
Uh
why
huh.
I'm in the chat. Why? I don't know how I ended up here.
I don't know. You're the one who signed up for it. So, do
You
you have
invited
any
me.
other points, or is your thing just there are laws? Because I guess I want to. One thing I guess I want to ask is, do you think that even if there are laws, nebulous laws that might exist in whatever form, um, do you think that if a company, I guess I have to ask, do you think that if a company violates, like a big renter company violates something that you might be able to win a lawsuit for, right? It is something that they are overstepping their boundary, unfair contracts, something like that. Do you think that the average person could actually take that large company, like a potentially billion-dollar company, to court?
This happens all the time. They're called class action lawsuits.
Yeah, but you understand a class action
I
lawsuit is
can't.
not as an individual cannot do a class action lawsuit.
I agree with that.
Exactly. So
think it
I'm
depends. It
talking about an
depends on the
individual. I'm talking about
violation
an
committed. It
individual.
depends on the violation committed. I don't. I mean, they could, but if potentially, it depends on the law firm if they're willing to agree. I mean, obviously, the payment structure would have to be such that they're only getting a payment based on whatever retribution is
So
paid out
let me
by
ask you
the.
then this: do you think
Do you
maybe
know how
if you
lawsuits
ran wait
work?
hold
I
on hold
don't.
on if
I
you
mean, I
maybe
don't know how
ran
to
one of those
even begin here.
companies, if you maybe ran one of those companies, and we're like, okay, these people don't have any recourse, so I'm just going to keep doing predatory rental practices. Do you really think that they're going to have scruples about
No, I
doing
don't.
that?
I agree with you here. I'm with you. Two corporations, big
So you
enemy.
do
Okay,
think?
Chevron decision in the Supreme
Wait,
Court,
so
not good
you
for the
agree
average
that
person. Unless you're a
the
CEO of a corporation, we're fucked.
okay, so you agree that doing in uh predatory rental practices like raising the rent $100, knowing that it for one costs a bunch of money to move, number one, and number two, they're not going to have enough money to have any legal recourse. You would agree with me then that that is bad?
Well, I think that the standard for proving wrongdoing and fraud and any type of
Okay.
predatory, practices on behalf of the rental company is pretty high, and it probably should be. I mean, there has to be protection against those people that are trying to conduct business to provide that service of housing. You know, I mean, there is some balance that has to be had here, but I mean, yeah, I'm with you here. This is why we need the
Then why
government
are
and we
you
need
saying that
politicians and
I
we need courts to protect
Okay.
consumers. But I'm just explaining to you. I mean,
But
what
yet
you were
you
saying
are the one
earlier
who's
when I was
talking to
in chat
somebody who's
was
talking
wild.
about how I think it's incredibly predatory to raise it like $100 is bad, and then you're coming in here saying I don't know what I'm talking about.
Well, in the context
You realize
of
that
what
you're
you were
doing the
saying
opposite
earlier,
of
it
what
didn't
you
make no
just said
sense.
that you support.
No, I don't actually at all. I think it's a nuanced thing. The two things can be true at one time. What you were talking about in that
Yes, you.
specific example did not make sense.
Okay.
There's
Do
also
you want to
a
have
rational.
any closing statements, or do you want to bring anything up else you want to talk about?
I would love to debate you on any issue in perpetuity. I think we're probably pretty like-minded, but I think that your ability to enumerate your stance on issues is not very good.
You want to debate on my ability to enumerate on my stances on issues? That's what you're just
That's
saying?
not. I think your capacity to hear the words I'm saying and
I think that
comprehend
you
English is
maybe have
pretty low too.
a
That's
little
not what I just
bloated
said.
perspective of yourself, and just because you say words like enumerate, I don't think that actually. Okay, all right.
Okay. Yeah, I'm done. I've lost interest.
Right. Uh, well, that went exactly the way I guess I expected it to. Seiki, what the fuck do you want to talk to? Why are you... What do you want? Why are you here? I don't got all day here. Be quick.
I think that it boils down to a much simpler
Whoa, whoa, whoa,
issue.
whoa. Don't say it. Explain your stance.
The stance that we were just discussing.
No,
in
you
terms
need
of
to be
raising,
specific here. God, I'm not letting you do... Your name is Snaky,
You're
so
right. I wasn't
I
just
gotta be
explaining
very
myself. That's my
careful
bad for
with
cutting me off. That's on me. I'm sorry.
So what exact... Let's assume that we're not coming from that conversation.
Sure.
Start with what your perspective is.
My perspective is that it's crazy.
Are you guys
to
friends? Oh my
assume
god, you sound the same. Sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off. Go